Hello everybody. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Retired Joe A. Putnam, and I am the author of a book called An American Advisor in Vietnam, My Story. It was released along about March last year. This is right now approaching the middle of February of 2018, and the book is on the shelves of 3 major university libraries, the U.S. Army Infantry Center and School, the research library there, the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College, U.S. Army War College, and the Library of Congress. So it's been pretty distributed, but I have some videos here that I'm going to show you. And what happened is that in 1967, I was a 22-year-old lieutenant in the Army. I was an infantry officer, carried a specialty of airborne infantry. And I was sent to Vietnam. It was my turn, so I got deployed, and my assignment was the U.S. Military Assistance Command, Vietnam. There were 2 major commands in Vietnam. USARV, an acronym that we always called it, that was U.S. Army Vietnam, and all the American units in Vietnam were assigned to the command of USARV. MACV, U.S. Military Assistance Command, MACV, excuse me, that's where all the advisors were. Now, we advisors lived with the Vietnamese. We gave them access to U.S. materiel. We went with them on patrols. We worked in their offices. We helped their commanders. We did virtually everything, trying to help them to keep from losing a war to the communists out of the north. Now, while I was there, I served with 3 different battalions of the 25th Division. We called it ARVN, Army of the Republic of Vietnam. So it was the 25th ARVN Division. And these were, there were 3 different infantry battalions that I served with. And an advisory team that lived with the battalions was a 4-man American team, 2 officers and 2 enlisted guys. And the 1st battalion that I was with, I was in Long An province in the Mekong Delta, and it was just south of Saigon, about 30-40 miles. And then I got transferred to Can Giuc, which was the sector headquarters that we worked for, because they didn't have an officer there, and we had 2 in Soi Doi, where I was. And after a while, we lost all the officers down in a little town called Long Mu, which was a little farther south, and so boss sent me down there because I was the only officer available. I was the only one that could speak Vietnamese. And I had gone through about a 5-week course in Fort Bragg, North Carolina at the John F. Kennedy Center for Special Warfare to learn how to be an advisor. And then I went to the Defense Language Institute, West Coast branch, which was in Monterey, California, and I studied the Vietnamese language about 11 hours a day, 7 days a week, for about 3 months. Then I got deployed, and so this book is all about that time of my life where I spent in Vietnam. It follows me from the time I left my hometown of Oklahoma City, and through all the assignments that I had, and my trip back here to where I was watching TV and saw something that was kind of ironic. The book tells all about it, and if you wanted to read the book, you'll find that there's a kind of an undertone, an underthread that winds throughout the book, and it kind of all comes together at the end. The point, however, to this video is that while I was there, I would carry a couple of cameras. I carried a still camera for still shots, and I carried a movie camera to take videos, because if I didn't make it back, then at least I wanted my family to see what I was doing in that length of time. So I carried these things on my pistol belt, and whenever I had time, I would take it out and I would shoot videos or pictures or whatever. And I never shot anything that was blood and gore. You know, I try to keep it as inoffensive as possible because I was sending these things back to my family and I didn't want them to worry. So what you're about to see is everything that I took while I was there. These films are, right now they are 50 years old at the time of this filming. And over the period of 50 years, these little Super 8 films that didn't have a soundtrack, by the way, that's why I'm going to have to narrate it for you so that you understand what you're seeing. But the color has faded out over the years, over the decades. And they got a little grainy here and there because bacteria eat cellulose, and that makes little black spots. So this is the best quality that I've been able to salvage out of these things, and copies of these films are also in the Oklahoma History Center. I donated the original films there. What you'll see is a DVD copy of those films. So give me a second to reposition the camera, and we'll show you about 15-20 minutes worth of videos. It took me about a year to shoot. And I hope you like them. I think you'll be able to see them well enough. Okay? I'll be right back. All right, what you're seeing here is a bunch of guys in the chow line at a little village just south of where I was stationed. And this village here is called Rakian. And this was the home of the 3rd Battalion, 39th Infantry, 9th U.S. Infantry Division. Commander was a lieutenant colonel by the name of Bill Richardson, who later became a 4-star general and commanded the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command. But these guys right here, I went out on operations with these guys quite a bit. We were very close. And if you read the book, An American Advisor in Vietnam, my story, you'll see me talk a lot about these guys, not necessarily these particular fellows that you see in the film, but members of this battalion. We were pretty close. We were only about 2 kilometers apart geographically. And just as a little sidebar, there was a guy by the name of Wes Studi who was stationed here at this same place just after I left, and he wound up being in a lot of Hollywood movies. He's an Indian guy. Anyway, this is the beginning of the films that I took in 1967. I'll stop it from time to time just to kind of give you a little understanding as to what you're seeing. So let's go. Now this was our base camp. This was up in Swidoi. And that's where I lived for a couple of months or so. You can see, let me stop it right there. You can see the ammo boxes. These were old howitzer shell boxes that were filled full of dirt clods. Same thing with these sandbags down here on the bottom. And there was a poncho draped across the top. And just above, tilt the camera back here, yeah, right there. You can see some sandbags up here. They were laying across a little bit of corrugated tin. And that was home for a while I was in Swidoi. This was our base camp. You can see a mortar pit right there at the foreground. And right here, every sandbag and long end province seemed to be around these guys' quarters. This was the battalion commander and his executive officer. This is where they lived. That was Sergeant James D. Cook. He's mentioned in the book. I went out on a lot of operations with him. This little monkey here was the battalion mascot of the battalion over at Kanjuk, and I got loaned out to go out some operations with him. and I was just kind of playing around with the little monkey. Now this is me at the age of 23, barely 23. You can see I'm a bit sunburned. And you're going to notice a lot of difference between what I look like here versus what I look like a little bit later on in these same films. Because I lost 45 pounds in 60 days. Now, we'll stop it right here. This civilian house was in Kanjuk, and this is where we lived whenever I was stationed in Kanjuk. And right here in this little doorway, if you read the book, you'll see this mentioned. I was laying right down here in this doorway at a time when we got attacked. Viet Cong had a knack for trying to be kind of a pain in the neck from time to time. And this bridge right here connected Kanjuk with Saigon. As you can see that somewhere, some way, they'd blown it up and dropped it right into the river. Now, these pontoons connected the other side of it so that commerce could continue and the local villagers there could make it on up into Saigon. Lots of bicycles. This is downtown Saigon. A local bus, this is at the crossroads in Soi Doi, and you can see Mama-san on the way to market there. And they don't have grocery carts, they had to carry everything over their shoulders. Now this is a medical civic action program team. It was called MedCap teams, and they would give, excuse me, they would give medical care to the local villagers, trying to win hearts and minds and so forth. And then when they got done, they headed back toward Rakhine. Now I was trying to burn up a little film because I was I was going into Saigon to get these films developed, so I was just kind of trying to burn up a little bit of film. But those ducks right there figured into the diet of the Vietnamese people quite soundly. They would remove the bill and the feathers, and everything else went into the pot, even the entrails. And that's one reason why I lost so much weight. I just couldn't eat duck guts. Now we're in an operation here. You can see the armored personnel carriers, dry rice paddies, soldiers moving across the field. And shortly here, I'm going to stop it because I want you to watch the lower right hand corner of the screen. That's a little bit of water on the rice paddies. Now, look right down here. Let me see if I can get the pointer over here. Okay, right down in this lower part of the screen, you're going to see some dirt and water get kicked up with bullets. We were calling in some artillery on some bad boys that were over in those trees. And every now and then they jump up and shoot back. And right in here, some of the bullets they were shooting at me kicked up a little bit of dirt and stuff. So see if you can watch it. Plus, right out here on this little edge, this little ridge line right there. So here we go. There, and right out on the ridge line. This was a change of command ceremony. Our battalion was getting a new battalion commander. This guy right here, absolutely worthless. And this was the old commander. This is Major Alabak. He's mentioned in the book. And the regimental commander was Major Alabak's counterpart. So he makes a speech and he presents the guidon to the new battalion commander, who was Major Fop. And you'll read about him in the book. They changed places, and now the little guy is the commander. And right next door was a Buddhist wedding. I thought it was kind of pretty, kind of colorful, so I got to stop this. So anyway, I took a little bit of footage of the Buddhist wedding. Now right here, I took this because I'd seen it before and never did have my camera with me. And I wanted people to see this. I didn't think they'd believe it. This is a Vietnamese version of a dishwasher. These two girls, you can see one of them right here. May not be real clear, but there's one there, and there's another one stooped over right here. This board looks like it's maybe 10-12 inches wide, and it's kind of bowed in. Right along here is mud that's been pulled up there to trap water. You might be able to see it a little bit right here and over here. This is all paddy water, and the water would come across the rice paddies, which had been fertilized with both human and animal excrement, and carried along God knows what with it as it goes. And when it came right back up behind what this thing is right here is a little sidewalk cafe. And they put this board out there, trapped a little bit of that water, and that's what they were using to wash the chopsticks and bowls from that little restaurant there. And this little girl is on her way back in there carrying her so-called clean chopsticks and bowls. There they go. Now this is obviously an aerial view. You can see the brown down there is all rice paddies. This is the dry season. Vietnam had only 2 seasons, wet and dry. Monsoons come along a little bit later. Little villages, you can see the little river here every now and then. The lines you see are called paddy dikes. They would push up a little bit of mud to trap the water in there, because the water, of course, is very important when you're growing rice. That's the barrel of an M60 machine gun, the door gunner. Now you can see it looks a little bit wetter out there. Those rivers were tidal rivers, and when the tide came in from the South China Sea, a lot of those rivers would overflow their banks and go out and irrigate some of the rice paddies. Right along the middle of the screen, right